A young person, even if it's only first thing in the morning when you're feeling lively, this is for you too. It's a story about Empty the Bubble Wand. Now, some of you may look at this and think my bubble wands never looked like that. They were circular. Well, my bubble wand looks like this, and this is what Empty looked like. And if you're very close, you may be able to see he looks a bit unhappy. And he's unhappy because when his owner brought him to the forest, she'd got him in her pocket and she dropped him and didn't realise it. So he was left there in sort of muddy path, feeling rather uncomfortable. And the trouble was that in that fall, he'd forgotten so much about himself. He'd forgotten, well, he hadn't forgotten who he was, but he'd forgotten where he came from and how to do things. So when he heard a little noise by him, it sounded like somebody nibbling grass, and indeed it was. Now, I can't wriggle my nose like a rabbit. Some of you probably... There's one very good one in the front here. I'm not going to ask the grown-ups to do it because they're a bit reserved about doing things like that. He heard, he didn't know what it was. So he said, "Is that someone there? Can you come and talk to me, please? I'm Empty the Bubble Wand." And a rabbit appeared and said, "You're what?" "I'm Empty the Bubble Wand." "Oh, all right," he said. "Well, I'm pleased to meet you, although I don't know what you do." "I make bubbles," said Empty the Bubble Wand. And the rabbit went on nibbling, but in a friendly sort of way. And he called his friend. And his friend would call Gossip, the mouse. And Gossip came along and said, "Who's this?" "I'm Empty the Bubble Wand. I make bubbles." "Well, I've never seen you before." "What are you doing here?" "Well, I was left here and I'd forgotten where I come from, and I've forgotten everything except my name and that I make bubbles." "Oh, well, we'll have to see about that," said Gossip. And he called to someone else who very slowly walked into view. Is that the right way up? No, that's the right way up. And this is Slow the Snail. And Slow the Snail said, "Who's this then?" "I've not seen one of these before. Who's this?" And they said, "This is Empty. He's a bubble wand. He makes bubbles." Said Slow, "I don't see any bubbles." And it was true. There weren't any bubbles at all. "Well," said Slow, "we'd better take him to see somebody who knows about these things." So they took him to see, you can guess this one, it's always the wise old owl, isn't it, in all the stories? Wise old owl knows everything. They took him along to see Wise Old Owl, who was also called Hoot, because they do. And Wise Old Owl said, "What's this you brought me then?" And they said, "We've brought along Empty the Bubble Wand." And he said, "What's he doing?" "He makes bubbles," said Gossip, "although we haven't seen any yet." And Owl said, "Well, we'd better see what we can do about that." And he went into his house, and he came out again. And if I can do this, I will show you what he did. He bought a purple tube of the most horrible looking liquid. And he said to Empty, "Now all you've got to do is plunge head first into this liquid." And Empty thought, not very happy about that. "I'm nice and clean now I've walked off all the mud." Hoot said, "If you want to blow bubbles, you need to go head first into that liquid. And by this time, Empty was feeling a bit silly because he couldn't blow bubbles, he couldn't even remember how. So, yes, he decided to go head first into the liquid. And if I can work this, he will. If I spin it, Mr. Cash will be telling me off. He went into the liquid. Well, what do I do now? He said, I've done that. Look, I've done that. And who had said, now you've got to go and be hung up in a tree, upside down. I can't put this in a tree upside down to show you, so I'll have to hold it. So who told him to go into the tree? And he was hauled up, and he was a bit scared, as one would be being hauled up by the neck onto a tree. And nothing happened. And he said, well, where are these bubbles then? Wait a moment, Hoot said. Patience is good. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Said Empty. We'll try it again. So anyway, it didn't get windy. The wind didn't come. And the wind doesn't come in here much, at least when the doors are shut it doesn't. So we have to see what this does. Can we get any bubbles out? And I bet I can't, because I'm never very good at this. My family will say I don't do it right. See? I knew it was a mistake. Empty was very disappointed that his bubbles didn't come, but then he tried again. Now the other animals were busy saying, oh great, that's wonderful. Fancy being able to do that. And Empty was saying, give me more stuff, give me more mixture, so I can do it again. So meanwhile was off in the forest, very slowly of course, trying to catch a bubble for himself. This story is a funny one. Well, I got a round of applause, it must be good. But the real story, you see, is that none of us, as we grow up, know exactly what we'll do when we're grown up. And we may look at other things and think, they're very good at doing that. I should never be that good. But what you find out, with the help of friends, and with the help of people who offer you good advice, is that you can all do something special. It may not be blowing bubbles, you can see that isn't my talent. It may be doing something else. It may be singing, or playing a musical instrument, or baking cakes, or writing articles for people to read. It may be to do with sweeping the house up and keeping it tidy, or helping other people. But there will be something each one of you is really good at, and I hope it's better than I am with bubbles. Thank you.